Alrighty guys, how are we doing? Beautiful day here in Ohio. We don't get to say that too often, so I'm going to brag about it for a little bit. Anyway, today I wanted to attack the driver as far as the setup is concerned. But if you've watched the past two videos, you know that we got to start every video off with a good shot. That would find the middle of the fairway. Anyway, let's get to it. Right, so like I said, today I wanted to talk a little bit about the stance of the driver. So, what do we need to know about the driver? Well, for starters, obviously, it's the longest club in our bag. With that needs to come the general understanding that with it being the longest club in the bag, we need to have it in the front of our stance. We need to have the ball teed up in the front of the stance and have the driver set up from there. This is different from, having like a wedge in your hand, a much shorter club where we can generally want to put it in the middle to back of our stance just so we can control it a little bit better. So a good general rule of thumb when you're teeing up the ball, getting ready to hit your driver, is to tee it up so that the ball position is just on the inside of your left heel, right? So this is good for starters here. So every time I go to tee up for the ball, again, I make sure that it's just on the left inside heel of my left leg. That's a good starting position to help us hit up on the ball. And I mean, that was ripped. But yeah, essentially why we want to put it in the front of our stance is because we'll be able to hit up on the ball, and that's what differentiates an iron swing from a driver swing, right? With the driver, we want to hit up on the ball. We want to get that ball up in the air. With an iron swing, you want to hit more down on it, right? So two different swings for the same sport, essentially. Right, so we have the ball in the front of our stance, left inside heel, we're good to go. Well, what's the next thing? Well, a way that I learned to help us hit up on the ball is to, instead, when we have an iron and we're ready to hit the ball, we have our shoulders pretty square, right? So I'm squared up, I'm here, I'm good to go, and I'm trying to hit down on the ball. That's good. With the driver, again, the goal is to get the ball up in the air. So, like I said, we have it teed up front, we're good to go. We don't want to keep that square stance like we would with an iron. So, a good way that I learned is to do the backwards K. So you're set up here, driver set up, we're good to go. A good way to do this backwards K is to put your right arm down your right leg and just to bend a little bit, right? So now, if you can see it correctly, I'm set up like a backwards K. This is good. This will help us hit up on the ball, which is essentially what we want. Set up in the front of my stance, teed up in the front of my stance. And now from there, I'm just gonna slightly bend a little bit, get that shoulder tilt, and this will help me to hit up on the ball. Just like that. That's perfect. So those are the two keys there that I would, the next time you're out on the range, give it a try. Make sure that your ball position's in the front of your stance, and to try and give this backwards K a check. If you struggle with getting the ball up in the air, that's definitely an area that I would check. The next thing I want to address is tee height, right? So generally speaking, for your standard default shot, it's important that we have the ball covering half of the driver head. This will, again, help us to hit up on the ball, which is the goal of this video. So if you can see, and I'll zoom in there for a little bit, you'll see that half the ball is on the driver face and half the ball is above the driver face. This will create an upwards attack angle, rip here. And that's perfect. So what we covered in today's video, pretty simple and basic stuff, but I think it's something that you should, test out when you're out at the range. Make sure you're doing these things correctly. So again, we first covered the fact that we want the tee or the ball to be teed up in the front of our stance with the driver. We got that, check. That's worth checking out the next time you go to the range. From there, the next thing that we covered to help hit up on the ball is to give backwards K a try. because with that, you can see my shoulder angle, it's pointed up, and that'll help create that attack angle. And then the next thing was just to make sure that half the ball is covering the driver face, as well as the other half of the ball being above it. Again, this will help us to create an upward attack angle, which is ultimately what we want. Alrighty, thank you for tuning into this video. I hope you're able to learn something. I would definitely give one of these, make sure, just essentially they're checkups, right? You want to make sure you got the ball teed up in the front. You want to make sure that you have the setup that will allow you to hit, or allow you to have that upward attack angle, which is what we want. And then just to give it a check, just to make sure that the ball is teed up at the correct height. All three things are very important. There are three things that I check all the time just to make sure that I'm in tune with where I want to be. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.